We're live.
What? We are live now.
Yay!
All right. So, hello everybody, and sorry for the delay. There were some technical issues with the Hangout. But the good news is this is the last session for today, so there will not be a lot more technical difficulties. All right. This session is about click packages for the desktop. So click packages for the desktop. I put some notes into the Etherpad about the agenda for this session. The first and obvious question is, like, what's the scope? It's mostly about the desktop, but we will probably have time to talk about next steps as well that are not strictly related to the desktop. So for the people who are not too familiar with why we are doing it, well, the obvious answer is there are a bunch of good reasons why we have click packages. We use them on the phone. And they have up armor confinement, so they are a lot more secure than deb packages, for example. It is much easier for upstream to package their stuff, and they can bundle their own libraries, which is something that a lot of upstreams really want. Like Firefox, for example, they are really keen on doing their own QA.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, and
oh yeah, of course.
we have been thinking about ways to ensure that people don't have to do that. But yeah, there are good points and bad for that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Colin. So it's great that you are here. If that has been discussed already, if all the good points about clicks have already been made public, then I can skip the introduction.
It's been discussed in various places, but I don't think it does any harm to recap. The confinement thing is most useful because. So, I mean, if people are familiar with the history of our various attempts to make it easier for people to deliver third-party apps on top of Ubuntu, we've had attempts to help people get packages into university. We've had extras.ubuntu.com. We've had the other approaches in the Software Center, I'm sorry.
The Partner Archive.
Partner Archive, yes, and those have generally worked well in places where people are interested in platform development. But for the sort of lightweight add-on application market, the sort of thing that you'd describe as an app rather than an application, I suppose, it really hasn't worked very well, and our volume has never been sensible. In particular, the review burden was very high on us. We had to review the code of things that we were publishing to make sure that they weren't going to exploit people's systems, because we had no way to they would execute things as root when you installed them, and we had no way to confine this. So while deb packages are brilliant for a lot of applications, and I certainly have no desire to make them go away entirely, they never really worked well for this sort of market.
Right, exactly. Okay. Yeah, and it also gives us a lot of benefits in the sense that an app developer can ship their packages at an independent schedule. I mean, that's another aspect where platform development can collide with application development. So, the goal is to have GIMP on day one, basically. Like, you don't have to wait for the next stable release before you can get the latest GIMP.
Right. I mean, we should be a little bit careful about scope. There are a lot of things that are pretty difficult to deliver as click packages. If your package provides interfaces to other things, so if you're let's say if you're a library or even a compiler, a language runtime, that sort of thing, or even something that has non-trivial bindings to other things. So those sort of things don't work very well as click packages because you have all this shifting landscape of different paths. Things don't get installed into the same path every time, and so on. And click packages in general are designed for leaves of the dependency graph rather than for anything that might sit in the middle. So we should be a bit careful about scope. It doesn't solve everything. It does help with some things. There's a telegraphic comment in the pad that some people may not be familiar with the details of it, about Mir versus X11. The reason that all of this work is dependent on Unity 8 and Mir is that we've had several people looking at trying to do effective confinement of X apps, and nobody has been able to get it to work to date. An X application can grab your input and inject arbitrary events. There are things that it's very difficult to stop an X app from doing, no matter how much app armor confinement you put around it. And those, this would probably be fixable if we paid an X developer for long enough. But it's a non-trivial, distinctly non-trivial thing to do in X right now. Whereas with Mir, we know we can do it. So we don't want to dilute the security story for click packages by delivering a system where you can install insecure things that will eat your system. Hence, click packages in the desktop will only be available in the Mir universe unless somebody drops a solution for X into our labs.
Right. So Michael Hall is just asking on IRC why we can't offer click packages on X11 and just have a big disclaimer saying, this you are on your own. Yeah. So Colin is answering on IRC, disclaimers don't work, which is generally true.
And I mean, click packages were designed for the masses, such that things that are uploaded to the store are generally automatically reviewed or have only trivial review and are not widely checked for like rootkits or anything really crazy, such that it would be harmful to allow X11-based click packages or delivering them insecurely to the user. It would be just like a massive backdoor. So we're not obviously going to ship or allow that.
Yeah, and it may undermine our reputation as well. I mean, if even with the disclaimer, like if there is a security breach in some way or the other, yeah. Yeah, and it's so for the audience who's not on IRC, there's a bit of a discussion going on right now. Technically, it's trivial for us to provide click packages on X11 as well. I mean, it's really straightforward. All right.
Anyway, let's move on. We have talked about this at pretty high levels before, and I don't want to reopen that, but I did want to explain what was
right.
So you have good news from your experimentation so far, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So the good news is we are really, really close. Like installing, like if you use the Unity 8 desktop session mirror on your system, you can do it now on your topic system, and it works reasonably well. I mean, it's not super stable yet, but it does work just fine. And as long as the SDK and the framework is available, and you have a platform API backend that is supported, then you can install click packages. Like you can, and you can run click packages. It will work fine in Unity 8 on the regular desktop. So I had to change the package-kit backend to use dummy instead of apt-cc, because for some reason apt-cc always wanted to grab the click package instead and install it as a deb package because it looks like a deb package. And for some reason, the click plugin did not take precedence here. That seems to be a bug because, as I understand it, Colin, it really should, take precedence, right?
I'm sorry. Could you just repeat the?
I think it should take precedence because clicks nowadays have the magic file. Magic to distinguish them from regular debs.
Sorry. Could you just repeat the question? What is this about? Making sure that package-kit tries the click plugin before
exactly.
deb.
Exactly.
Right. So regardless of the file type thing, that's definitely a bug. It definitely doesn't fit the current shape of the code.
Right.
The current shape of the code. So I believe you that it happens, but it's a simple bug rather than design error, I think.
Yeah.
The way it works at the moment is that the click plugin gets called first and has the opportunity to filter the list of packages that are being installed. So something's a bit bizarre if it's not filtering it out. It must be declining it for some reason, or not noticing the packages. So I mean, I'd suggest running package-kit d with -vv and see what it's doing there.
Yeah, I will. I just haven't had the time yet. Sorry for that, but I will investigate and figure out what's going on in the next couple of days. Alexander is asking a question, if we will have developer mode that allows to install clicks without a trusted signature. I guess yes. I mean, right now we already don't enforce signatures. And it's also possible to install that click just by, downloading it or building it locally. Right. So for the people watching, there is some more IRC discussion about whether or not you should be able to install a click in some sort of developer mode. But it seems like there is general consensus that it's fine if you use the command line to install the click in,
I think we're a bit sidetracked in those conversations about X11. Can we move on slightly to what needs doing to actually be able to install normal trusted clicks from the store and to enable that?
Right.
Because that was what the session was about.
This is what the session is about, yes. Right. So the two big ones that prevent running is the platform API backend needs to work on the desktop, which it wasn't last time I checked, but it may now.
No, not yet. I think they have a merge request in Asilo with a platform API version 2, which is supposed to fix this, and they are trying to land it this week.
Excellent. That's great news. Okay, and the other big one is that the browser is currently not working in the desktop Unity 8 session.
So Chris has been looking at it, and he said it's a bug in the Mesa EGL backend, I think, and he has a workaround from his side, like from the web browser, so it should be fixed soon as well.
That's, again, excellent news. So yeah, that sounds like we are really, really close. And the whole effort will be part of the Unity 8 preview session ISO, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing we need to figure out is how to like pre-install clicks on the ISO, which is a bit orthogonal to the current topic, but something to do cycle as well.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to just add it to the Etherpad, and if we have time, it looks like the session, it looks like we have plenty of time in the session, so we can talk about it as well later on.
Okay.
Okay. So people who are keen on trying out click packages on the desktop, they can use the Unity 8 ISO that is currently being built by the desktop team and SAP. And it's, as I understand it, not quite ready, but very, very close to. So then you can run a live session or install it on your system. Okay.
So there's a whole question of what we're actually using as the package kit backend, which there's a line for this in the past.
Right.
Michael and I talked about this briefly in Malta. The reason that we're using apt-daemon today is that for a long time PackageKit was fundamentally unable to cope with some of the things that we need to do in order to be able to install debs sensibly. It couldn't cope with confile prompts, it couldn't cope with debconf interaction. Basically couldn't cope with any kind of interactivity. Michael points out that this was supposed to be fixed by the addition of transactions in PackageKit 0.8, I think. So do we think that it might be worthwhile exploring whether we can just switch everything to PackageKit?
Totally, in my opinion. I mean, we will have to support apt-daemon for some time because Software Center is using it, and until Software Center is fully replaced by the click packages and the scope, we will have to have it. But there is no reason that the two cannot coexist. So yeah, I'm in favor of exploring the PackageKit route. I mean, given that it's well supported, it has a very active upstream. We have working code for it. Okay, Alexander is asking a question on IRC. What is the plan on a build system for open source distro software that we want to put in a click?
Yeah, could we get through the rest of the things that are in this session first, possibly, just to make sure that we've got all of the desktop story sorted here, because we're just trying to get the technology working at this point. Am I still online?
Yeah, you're still online, and I think that's
right.
That's a reasonable suggestion. I just added a note to the Etherpad so that we can talk about it
sure.
later. All right.
Sure. Yeah. So there's right. We definitely need a work item for sorting out explore switch to apt-daemon, to PackageKit across the board. Figure out the apt-cc. Figure out why the click plugin is being called at the wrong point. There were a few questions about what to use the CLI interface for the system image server. Is that?
Oh, that was
that from you, Michael?
That I added it because it was one of the things I was thinking about when we had the discussion about the system image for the server. Like if we support Click packages on the server, we probably want to have a higher level interface for Click as well, like where you can search the Click store basically.
Oh, do you mean the Click store?
Yeah, basically like what apt-get is now for dpackage.
Right. The system image server is the best system images.
Yes.
So not containing clicks. So I think that's different. But okay, CLI interface of the Click store. I would like to see the package kit install packages method hooked up, which.
Okay.
So at the moment we have Unity Scope Click does the download by itself with Ubuntu Download Manager. And we need to do that sort of thing on the phone so that we get proper download management, basically, wake up notifications, that sort of thing. But on a desktop, it's probably reasonable to have Click either use UDM if it's available, otherwise download it itself with some moral equivalent of wget. I think it has to do an OAuth signed request to download anything from the App Store, so it's a bit more than wget, but it could do it itself. The reason I'd like that is that firstly it would mean that Click could be self-contained. You could finally have a Click install a package by name thing that actually made sense, which it really doesn't right now. And it also helps a lot with multi-user. At the moment, the only way Unity Scope Click can work sensibly for multi-user is if two users download the same package. If two users request installation of the same package, then they will actually end up both downloading the package, and then Click will see that it's already installed and throw it away and just register it again, which is kind of silly. And but it's quite hard to fix properly without being able to just ask Click to do the installation by itself. So I think we do need to sort that out.
Right. Okay, so for the people listening or watching and not on IRC, there is again an IRC discussion right now about the layering of the service, basically. So the discussion right now on IRC is about what component should be responsible for doing the interaction with the Click's store. Like if it should be part of Click, if it should be a separate service, if it should be part of the scope.
So I mean, I think I would like Click to have various ways to acquire packages in the same kind of way that apps can acquire packages from multiple sources. You can tell it to acquire from HTTP, you can tell it to acquire from HTTPS with a token, and so on. Click at the moment doesn't have any of that. It just has installed this file. And I would like it to have package acquisition because it would make everything more symmetrical and just generally work better. But I don't at all mind if the actual acquisition is done by a separate service. I agree that for the sort of architecture we have at the moment, that makes sense.
Hello, Rodney. Welcome.
Hi.
Okay, so yeah, so I agree with Colin that it would be nice to have a separate or an integrated in some form service that can acquire click packages.
Yeah, we're going to write that for the click scope to use so that we can get some better user experience across the board and to make the purchasing story a bit easier.
Okay,
but
this
is a separate service, not inside. It'll be a separate service. It won't be part of Click itself. So if Click is going to have Click install foo call to the install service, which then calls back to Click to install the package, it might be a bit weird.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, what will it be like? Will it be a debus service? Will it be a library?
Debus service.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's all compatible. I can see your point that it's kind of weird to things calling back out and forth, but I think it would make the Click's documentation make a lot more sense if things were arranged that way, which is some concern to me. I guess I don't really mind very much whether Unity Scope Click continues to show itself, but it would be I think it would work better for multi-user potentially if we just let Click decide whether it needs to acquire something or not.
Okay, so is there more to discuss in this session about this service layering, or should we discuss it later?
Yeah, I think we can probably argue that out later. It's not critical to fix it for Click on the desktop.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we all agree that we want to have this extra service. We just need to, figure out in what shape or form.
So just looking through another few of the more to discuss things which we ought to get through. The support for CLI apps via Click, you have the notion of hooks registering to $path. Seems reasonable. I think the only reason we didn't was there wasn't much need for it.
Yeah.
The one thing I'd say is that we'll need to be a bit careful about namespacing if we do that. So right now we tend to put the full app triplet in the names of all of the files generated by hooks, just to make sure that everything is unique. But if I don't think that would be very pleasant to use for command line operation. But then we suddenly have the question of multiple apps trying to own the same name. Right. And maybe we just have to consider that an error for one or the other, but we would have to think about it.
Yeah, an error, or maybe just a warning, and the subsequent ones get a full triplet, or I don't know, some different mechanism. But yeah, namespace is an issue, definitely.
Signing, again, sort of optional for the optional for the desktop, but it would be nice to fix. We did have a discussion a while back about what we needed to do to make signing of the packages themselves work properly, as opposed to transport layer signatures, which is what we're relying on right now. Transport level security rather. I have a fully worked out design for signing click packages, basically making use of some tools that already exist. This basically just needs to be done. I forget what the exact policy was on things like which signatures you trust in a package. I think we were doing something. I think the design had something a little bit like Android's approach, where you trust the last signature, so trust on first use, basically. So if you want to deploy an updated version of an app, then it needs to be signed by the same key. But we ought to think about how that interacts with the store, whether the store ought to be able to override this somehow. There are a few things to think about, but I would be happy if we got the initial facility in place and people could start experimenting with it in practice.
Right.
Maybe we could run it in warn-only mode for a while.
Right. What's the scope of this work? Like, I suppose we need both server and client-side support for this, right?
I don't think we need server-side support. The Click Store deliberately doesn't, or at least didn't, used to inspect the inside of packages at all. I think it may have started doing that a little bit, but it's not going to care about an extra element in the package. So it's a backward compatible addition to the package format.
Okay.
We would just need to ship the tools to manipulate it sensibly.
Right. And how would we ship it to them?
Yeah, let me just see if I can dig out the design, and I'll just spend a few minutes looking through the mailing list archives.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to derail the discussion too much. I'm just curious about the broad outline of the approach.
We probably want the server to verify the signature, like make sure that the key is on the key server and a valid key still and everything. Though.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's some thing. I mean, the client has to do its own checks anyway, so server-side checks are, I think, nice to have, but shouldn't be mandatory for the security properties of the code. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. It'd be helpful to have early rejects when you've done something wrong.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, but we can postpone the signature discussion maybe.
Well, I know Martin wants it to. Martin Albacetti sent me email saying that he wanted it done, so I might have to have a look at it. But I've dropped the link to the previous thread into the pad. As far as having clicks pre-installed on the ISO goes, I think that should work the same way that it does on touch images. You can install packages into user share click pre-installed. There's a thing in the live build configuration for the touch images that has the right invocation, and those are then registered for all users. If a user decides they don't want it, then they can unregister it for themselves, and that basically hides it for them.
Okay, so that should help Seb to get the image going. So Seb, out of curiosity, what kind of clicks will you pre-install? I guess the calculator?
Yeah, calculator, notes, cameras, gallery. We had a few others. The same one on the phone mostly.
Yeah, we have this. This is one thing we still need to sort out with the new image build framework. It needs to have the ability to point the click pre-installer thing at a different list of packages to pre-install, but it's not complicated. It's just where to put the configuration. Okay, getting back to Alex's question about a build system for click packages. When we first put click packages together, I didn't want to start by having a source package format, because that was one of the things that had been a pain point with Debs. It was people had to figure out how to jam their own build system into our source package format, and while we found that really straightforward to do because we were used to it, it seemed to be a point of difficulty for people. So I wanted to start out by just letting people sort out their own build system themselves. That's fine as far as it goes. It doesn't allow people to it doesn't allow us to build a build service for click packages. In fact, it makes that impossible because we have no entry points. So I think we may want to look at some of the first steps to be able to build click packages on our normal infrastructure, so that you can build either you can build click packages on their own for things like the core apps, or you should be able to build both. You should be able to build some packages in both deb and click formats, I think. That would require adding some kind of specification of how to call the packages build process in the manifest format for the click package, and for the dual use case for building both deb and click, we could maybe just have that act a little bit like a custom upload for those who know how those work at the moment. So you can at the moment in the middle of a Debian packages build process, you can build other essentially arbitrary objects and tack them onto your upload as an extra file, and we do this for installer images and the upgrader and that sort of thing. So I've had some very sketchy initial conversations with William Grant of Launchpad, trying to work out what we might do for this, but I don't think we have anything that could fairly be called a design yet. Does that answer your question, Alex? We're not going to YouTube lag.
Right. Yeah, I think having a way to for this would be great for developers as well, because it makes recreating click packages much more easy for them. I mean, one of the nice benefits of source packages is that the build is very reproducible. And Alexander says he's happy, but wants more discussion. All right. It seems like we covered most of the items on the list. So unless there are questions on IRC or there are questions from the audience here in the Hangout, we can finish 7 minutes early.
Do we have a reasonably complete set of work items, or are we missing some of the things from the desktop API side of things?
Let's see. The platform API. I don't know. I guess we have the platform API backend and for the browser crashing currently, so we don't need a work item as long as we have a bug attached to it. Right, Colin?
Indeed, attaching bugs is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and they both have bug fixes in the pipe for landing, so I think it's going to be fine either way.
Right. Should we add a work item to register CLI applications, like provide a click hook for CLI applications?
I think the question mark was whether it's detection and refusal, or detection and warning, or something. So,
okay.
Yeah. Do we have anything left for getting web apps up and running, or is that?
It's hard to say, because when I tried it, the browser was broken. So I assume it will just work once the browser is fixed. And I really see no reason why it wouldn't work. I mean, once the browser is available.
Yeah, as long as the web app container package is installed, it should work.
Oh, so we may need to ensure that this is a dependency in, or is it already a part of the Ubuntu SDK libs package?
I don't recall.
Okay, so we need to double check. Make a note. Too trivial for a work item. All right. So some more IRC discussion again. And just 2 minutes left in this session. All right. Yeah. So I think we are done. Thanks, everyone.
I think we're done. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.